Okay, so welcome to WSBU 88.3, The Buzz. My name is Owen Murphy. I'm the music director. And with us today, we have Carter Vail. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, no, thank you. So first question, kind of the boilerplate, is how did you get into music? Like where did you learn as a kid? Did you have musical parents? Did you teach yourself? How did this start?
Yeah, I think I kind of always wanted to be a musician, but I didn't really realize that it was like a thing I could do.
Yeah.
I started playing guitar when I was really young, and I
Okay.
was, mostly self-taught as a producer. Um, and you know, I kind of started working in like audio electronics, and then slowly it just morphed into being a musician.
Okay.
It's been a really fun ride so far.
Yeah. So by like working in audio stuff, you were doing like production work, you were doing like editing. What do you mean by that?
No, I was like repairing guitar pedals.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
That's
fun and
sick.
but like somehow that morphed into being a musician, which is
Yeah. Like
cool.
I guess that makes sense. I mean, guitar pedals, I mean, I'm in our studio right now. We got pedals everywhere. But like it's that's a fun thing to do. That's a lot of fun
Yeah,
working with pedals. But
yeah, it was
so
good.
yeah, so in that case, so you're starting from there. So you said guitar was your first thing, but then you've branched out, I'm assuming, from guitar. I see like you have a bass in the background there. Do you do your own drums? Do you do your synths? How do you plan that out?
Yeah, I play all the instruments myself for the most part. And it's I like playing all the instruments. I'm actually I even have a clarinet over here as well that I'm
Ooh,
learning.
nice.
But yeah, I do all the instruments myself.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun. I don't think
Yeah.
I'm like fantastic at a lot of them, but with recording music, you can kind of
Yeah.
sneak by with being just okay at stuff.
Yeah. Is it one of those things? Because when we talk to musicians, there is this like, there seems to be a bit of a dichotomy between the people who are like, I'll find a good VST, I'll find something that sounds good and then work it in, and the people that are like, I'll invest the money in this, I'll learn it, and even if I'm not the best, you know it's you doing it. So you find yourself, I guess, more in that second category.
Yeah. Yeah, I like being the one to do it. I like physical instruments. I don't,
Yeah.
like plugins are cool, but I'd much
Yeah.
rather have like my hands on a keyboard or
Oh yeah.
I find that really fun.
I'm completely with you on that one. So then, the one thing that I think a lot of people would know you from is probably your TikTok, your Instagram. Like you have a fairly strong social media presence. Actually, we had a meeting yesterday in the music department, and we mentioned that we were going to interview you. And someone was like, "You said that's like they said it was a familiar name." So we pulled up the video, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I've seen this guy all the time. Like I see him everywhere." So I want to know then, how did that come about? Because obviously the internet is a fairly new thing. Social media, self-marketing is a very new, it's a new frontier, and you seem to be doing a lot with that. So how did that come about? How do you see yourself sort of fitting in that landscape?
Um, yeah, I mean, I try not to think of it too much in terms of like, I do this to promote this other thing. I
Mhm.
think the social media stuff is just fun to make. And,
Yeah,
I'm lucky to have some stuff that people see. But like a lot of that stuff, I'm making silly songs about like bees and stuff. So
yeah,
it's, the idea of like, oh yeah, there's a big like marketing idea behind it. That's not really the case. It's mostly
yeah.
me making songs about bees.
So with those ones then, so you are I don't know, I'm not sure what the best way to phrase this is, but you have more like albums out. You have what, two albums out, you just released a single, and they're all like fairly serious, if that makes sense. Like there's a much more mature undertone. You like a lot of the songs feel much more personal, much more focused. And then obviously on Instagram you have a song about NASA hiding the sun from you and the bees, like all that. So
Right.
do those songs come in like you work on it for a day and you make the video or and then like the ones for the album are like worked on for longer or do you in your mind do you separate them? How does that work out?
Yeah, I with the short funny songs,
Yeah.
it's like I'll make the song in an hour and then I'll make the video in an hour. With the stuff that like comes out on Spotify, I work on it for months and it
Yeah.
takes forever. Yeah, there's a difference in my head between the two. Like
Yeah.
I I care about both, but like it's a very different kind of caring. Like
Yeah.
I'm having fun in making the one, and I care that the like art is as good as possible in the other.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I mean, I'm sure it's like a fun thing to just, yeah, like sit down, write it, and then get it out and be like, well, now, I did something creative and now this thing exists.
Exactly.
Yeah. Kind of going off of that, then, what's the songwriting process for you, just in general?
Yeah. I this so this most recent song I co-wrote with my dear friend Noah Tauscher.
Okay.
Um, and for that song, it was we just kind of locked ourselves in my studio and we like, kept on kind of coming up with a bunch of songs for like a month. We would sit in the studio and just make a bunch of stuff. So there's a bunch of
Mm,
unreleased stuff right now.
mm.
Um, I think my process is mostly just like smash your head against a wall until something comes out. Which sounds not fun, but honestly, that's like the best thing ever.
Yeah.
When
Like
something comes out,
sit.
you're like, oh my God, that worked.
Yeah. So like sitting down and like kind of just being like, okay, we're gonna work through this and then it comes out. Then with those unreleased songs, are you planning on working on another album after the I'm blanking out on the name, the Interstellar Tennis Championship. Sorry.
That's, I feel like if ever there was a record title that you're allowed to mess up, it's that one. Um, we're working on a record. I can't
Okay.
share too much info, like we don't have dates or
Yeah.
anything. But it's a bunch of new music. I'm really excited about all of it, and it should be fun.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. So then, kind of going back a little bit, I guess, who would you say that your biggest inspirations are? Because obviously creativity is usually not a vacuum. You're taking things from what you're listening to, you're taking things from how you learn. But who would you say that your biggest musical influences are on both
Sure.
playing and songwriting?
My biggest musical influences, I'd have to say probably The National.
Okay.
I really like Vampire Weekend.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, the Adrian Lanker project and Big Thief in general.
Yeah.
A lot of the kind of indie hits, the
Okay.
like the titans of industry in indie music.
Yeah. Okay. And then what about that do you find yourself taking? Like, is it the way that they write the songs? Is it the way that they arrange their songs, like the instrumentation?
I think it's a little of everything. The thing that like interests me the most in songwriting
Hmm.
is uh I think like the sonic landscape of stuff and like the sounds that people use. Like
Hmm.
obviously I love writing music in general. Like if it's just me and an acoustic guitar, that's fantastic. The
Yeah.
thing that's the most exciting to me is how you can make something that everyone's heard before, like a guitar
Hmm.
or a drum kit, sound surprising and new.
Yeah. And in what ways do you find yourself like finding these like little like mini innovations and like the things that you've like surprised yourself with?
Uh, that's a great question. I don't know. It's hard to like pinpoint any specific one because it's usually not one thing that's changing it to make it unique. It's typically
Hmm.
like you do something and you're like, okay, that's heading somewhere, and then you add another plugin and then you put it to a
Yeah.
tape and it's like a series of 12 things that you'll do, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
you come back at it and you go, oh my God, that's a really interesting sound for this.
Yeah. And then you find like, do you have like a backlog of like these little like sounds and little things that you've discovered that you're like, okay, I know this sounds good. I know that I can use this for something. I just don't know what I'm going to do yet.
Yeah, I
Beautiful.
have I have a bunch of projects with like no words written on it, but like the wonderful drum loops and like really
Yeah.
crazy guitar sounds.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
90% of the time you never come back to it because I think the real um the real value to that is like learning that you can get there,
Yeah.
so than being like, oh, I need to come back to this project and like use
Yeah.
that. More like, oh no, I found something and now I know I can find something.
Yeah. And now you can come back to that. And like, I think it's interesting too. Like when you're like in writing and stuff, you usually come back to things. And if you're not actively recording it or writing it down, you come back to it, you know how you got there, but then you get there in a slightly different way each time. So I'm sure that gives like some character to what you do when you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of moving on. What like as of right now, a lot of your stuff, I mean, obviously you said your last song was written in collaboration with people, but like just solo credits seem to be kind of the theme throughout your work. Do you have like like a list of collaborators or like collaborations that you'd want to happen in the future?
Um, yeah, I mean, I like working with my friends. Like
Hmm.
the most fun way to write music is with people you already know and trust.
Hmm.
Um, because you can kind of skip the whole process of like getting to know them, you know?
Hmm.
Uh, so I mean, my dream collaborators are kind of the people that I already collaborate with, which is I'm very um
Yeah.
but other than that, it's kind of like the same artists that I mentioned earlier. Like
Hmm.
it's those people that I'm super inspired by that I'd love to work
Yeah.
with. And like
Yeah.
Rick Rubin. If Rick Rubin was like, "Hey, you
Yeah.
want to," I'd be like, "Absolutely."
I feel like working with Rick Rubin would be like a very, I don't know. I feel like he'd be an odd guy to work with. Like
Yeah.
he's so interesting, but like I feel like he'd come at stuff from an angle that you're like, is this really like how you want to do it? And then like it would work. But he's such an odd guy. I love him.
I kind of feel like, you'd either get to work with him and there's like a 50% chance you'd be like, "Oh yeah, this guy is the best at what he does." And there's
Yeah.
also like a 50% chance that you'd be like, "This guy's full of crap. There's
Yeah.
nothing
Oh yeah.
like there's absolutely nothing here."
That
Um,
that 60 Minutes interview, I think it's 60 Minutes interview with him where he's like, what's your secret? And he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I have no clue what I'm doing. And
right.
I think that's so funny that he is so open about that. But like, I mean, things come out of it. I mean, obviously, like works with Kanye. Obviously, the ad lib from Chop Suey just coming from his bookshelf is like such a cool story that's like shaped history, like music history.
I know. Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh yeah. Kind of going off that then. So, who are you listening to right now? Like, what are your current three like on rotation? Is it the same people? Is it new people? What are you
I'm
thinking?
I'm really excited by I'm listening to a lot of Bakara right now.
Okay.
Really cool artists. I'm also listening to let me pull up my Spotify real quick to remind myself what I actually
Yeah.
like. Um, Dope Lemon is amazing.
Say that again.
The artist Dope Lemon.
Okay. That sounds familiar. I couldn't
Yeah,
place it. Okay.
they're they have this song called Marinade that is
Yeah.
awesome. And then
Okay.
also the new Medium Build record. If you're not familiar with Medium Build, he's
No.
an
Again,
incredible.
these are all names I've heard like in passing, but never like sat down to listen to an entire project.
I'd recommend listening to Cutting Through the Country by Medium
Okay.
Build. That's
Okay.
like I think that's one of the most beautiful songs out right now.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you. I'll add it. I have like a like a 22-hour playlist of things I know I need to get to eventually. But
That's
yeah,
the way it goes.
yeah. Well, thank you. That's honestly, we got through those questions a lot faster than I was expecting. But thank you. This has been great. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I had a
No,
wonderful
of
time.
course. Yeah, thank you. So, any quick plugs? Obviously, Arizona out on, I believe, all platforms right now, right?
Yep, Arizona is out everywhere. Check it out. Listen to that. Share it with your friends. Share it with your grandparents. Um,
Hmm.
aside from that, yeah, I guess like follow me on Instagram and keep making music and doing stuff and listening to stuff.
Well, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Of
Yeah, thanks for having me.
course. Bye.